Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here with my friend and trusty producer, Max Kerman. Max, you're back in the country. Welcome back.
Oh, it feels so good.
We are also here with our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. And, of course, we have intern Erica back on the dials. Erica, you were on a vacation last week.
I was.
How was it?
It was great.
Hey, where were you?
On
Instagram
my family goes to Darien Lake every year for about 4 days.
They got roller coasters, right?
Roller coasters. They got Twisted Tea on tap.
I don't know what that means.
Twisted Tea?
Yeah.
It's like
that lovely alcoholic
iced tea.
beverage.
Oh, did you know the Shane?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Oh, it's delicious. It's
How old is
great.
everybody in your family?
So I'm one of 5.
Yeah.
My older brother is 20.
You have an older brother?
Yeah, he's going to be 24 in January.
Uh-huh.
He's a year older than me. And then there's
What does
me.
he do?
He is in my dad's union. He's a Boilermaker.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I have twin brothers a year younger than me. As you know, Jack is one half of that.
Oh, double trouble.
Yeah, they're 18. And then my youngest sister is 15.
Wow. So, Boilermaker is one of those jobs that I'm like, I sort of look at you blankly where
Same.
I don't
What
know
is
it
that? You make boils?
I discuss it, or I describe it
Spoilers?
as he does what like Homer Simpson does. It's something to do with nuclear power. I don't exactly know, but he works in like the boilers that
Well,
create.
Is it like
power.
a rough job? Like, does he have calloused hands?
I think he used to. Well, my brother does now. My dad is now like a trainer, so he works more in the office and stuff. But for like his whole career, he was like a welder or something.
After a long day at the, what is it, a boiler? A boiler?
room.
Yeah, I don't
After a
know.
long day at the boiler room, the only way to unwind is with a twisty tea at Darien Lake.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. I have these relatives that are down in like Port Dover area, like on Lake Erie. It's where my grandma grew up, and it's like on a farm. And Lauren and I happened to be down there. This is like a couple summers ago. We were glamping. That's like, and we rode these rented bikes over to the farm that my grandma grew up on. And her nephew still lives there with his family. And they both work at the mill. And they're like, I'm a millwright, and he's a millwright, and we're all millwrights. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then like we end up having a nice little hang. And then Lauren and I are leaving on our bicycles, and we just look at each other like, what the fuck's a millwright? And like I still don't know really what a millwright
Good
is.
luck! As you drive back to your cushy life in Toronto. Wouldn't your grandma's... it's her nephew.
Yeah.
Okay. If it was her son, it would be your uncle.
Yeah, it was her brother's kid.
Got just your mom's cousin.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go.
Yeah.
So today is the JFL episode, but before we get to that, I always forget to do this off the top, so I'm going to do it off the top. This episode of the Mike on Much podcast is brought to you by the Pedestal, our partner podcast, in which Shane, myself, and our other co-host, Jonathan Popoulos, Mensa member, which we always have to mention contractually. He has put that in there. We have an episode coming up this Friday, like we do every Friday for the next few more weeks. We're doing it for 10 in total. Last week we did Ghost. We didn't really talk about it with Matt Unsworth, who's our... and Max, you made an appearance on that. So if you haven't listened to the Ghost episode, Max does the tiebreaker on our verdict for the Pedestal.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
That was a while ago.
We recorded around Christmas.
Yeah.
And we were going out for like Christmas drinks after, so you just popped in. Mm-hmm. And it was a
I had
controversy.
nothing really valuable to offer, right?
But you broke the tiebreaker, which was
good.
good. So anyway,
You're
listen to
welcome.
that one. This Friday, you'll be hearing Terminator 2 Judgment Day coming up on the Mike on Much feed. So please go over and check out all our episodes of the Pedestal. We have lots of great stuff. Guys, I feel bad. I was a little bit late today.
That's okay.
I know, but the thing is, it's embarrassing because like I hate being late because Shane comes the farthest. He comes from Hamilton. He has to leave at like 5 a.m, so the traffic works out. So he's here to record at 8:45. So I'm really disrespecting.
You're by far
Shane.
the closest.
I'm literally like 4 blocks away.
Yeah.
So when I roll in late, I do have immense guilt. Like I do like that really quick like walk, or sometimes I'll even run.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was Danica decided to let me sleep in this morning, which doesn't happen.
Does she normally wake you up? You don't have an
The
alarm?
baby will wake me up, and then we'll kind of like we double duty in the morning, or I'll just openly take care of the kid in the morning. The kid, Winona, my daughter, my precious daughter. So I'll take care of her in the morning while Danica does other stuff. She can go get a coffee, whatever, because I know that she's going to be with the baby all day. So I kind of do morning duty. But last night, because she's getting ready to go back to work in September, so there's a big like work event, open bar, like 7-course meal type thing. Like, so she was like, "Oh, I'm going out tonight." I'm like, "All right, I'm like on daddy duty." So I think this morning she was like, because I was out till like 11:30 last night, I'll let Mike sleep in. But the problem is she didn't realize I was doing a pod, or she had a few too many drinks and forgot that I was doing a pod. And I had really bad like stomach issues through the night, and usually I have like an iron stomach, but this is like a classic. It was a very sad glimpse into what like single dad life would be like. The baby was sleeping and Danica was gone, and I was like, oh, I haven't eaten dinner. So you can't leave the apartment because the baby's sleeping. You can't just leave your baby in the apartment. So I had to make do. So I made 6 pierogies and 2 over easy eggs, and I was like, what am I gonna have with these? So I was like, oh, the sour cream. It's 2 days away from expiry, and then hot sauce from Sean Dawson's wedding, which is well over a year old. And I was like, it's Dawson's hot sauce, which is the best hot sauce. So I ate it all, and I thought I was fine. And then around 1 a.m, I woke up with the most intense stomach pains. Spent the night or at least an hour on the toilet.
What were you doing on the toilet? Number 2?
Yeah. Whatever's beyond a number 2. So yeah, and it was just like this. It was just very, very
like Millhouse's dad.
Yeah.
When they get a divorce.
Honestly, I just binged Star Trek Discovery, ate 6 pierogies and 2 eggs, and then had the shits all night. It was the most depressing thing. And then so I slept in this morning. So
I heard Danica's going to Hawaii.
Mexico.
She
Leaves in a week. I'm alone with the baby for a
week.
week.
I was going to ask, is she taking the baby or are you taking
man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just me and Winnie for a week. I'm already
Is she
planning
still breastfeeding?
activities.
How does that work?
She's just stopped because she's going to be gone for the week. So
cool.
we've just transitioned to the formula, which is like changing the sleeping patterns. And for her, it's good because now I can be far more of a participant in feedings. Although Winnie's now sleeping through the night, so we used to have to do these they call dream feeds or midnight feeds. She'd wake up 2 a.m. But anyway, this isn't a parent podcast. Everyone's like, dude, we don't care. Get to JFL. But I just wanted to apologize for being a little bit late this morning because I woke up in a panic. I looked at my phone. It was 8:30. I'm unshowered. I ran over here.
As someone who's always late myself, I'm usually 5 to 10 minutes late for just about everything. I don't have any right to get mad, but I do find some. And I'm never mad when it comes to the pod being a little behind schedule because it's kind of early and everyone has to get to their job after anyway, so we know we're on a bit of a time restraint. But sometimes when it comes to lobby call with the band, if I'm usually the last guy to arrive in the lobby, in the morning.
Yeah.
But if anybody else does it, I'm like, fucking guys, take your job seriously. Which is totally unfair.
Does it annoy you, Shane, when we're a little bit late since you're the one that's traveling for 2 hours?
No, never.
That's good.
Because I'm usually, it's weird, I'm usually not late. But I only mind people who do things that I do. It's weird. Since I'm never late, I'm not mad at people who are late for some reason.
Right.
But I get mad at people who are messy, and I'm very messy. So it's weird. It's like I hate what I am. So I was relating to you because you're late. You hate when someone's late.
Yeah.
For the record, I think it was the sour cream that got me sick, not the Dawson's hot sauce, which is the best hot sauce in the business. I think we can all agree.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this episode is also brought to you by Dawson's
Hot Sauce.
Yeah,
baby.
I highly recommend it.
It's made by our good friend Brody Dawson and the Dawson family. They're amazing.
Hey, before we get to JFL,
Yeah.
quick little thing. I think our rant section where we're trying to change some sort of municipal law is an effective bit. I think we should do more of that. So I want everybody to sort of take note on things that piss them off and they should be changed legally.
Okay.
And we have a caller section too that when we ask people to call in and leave voice notes.
Yeah, we have a few in the inbox waiting.
Yeah, people emailed. I didn't know we should be checking our email because we had sponsorship opportunities and a bunch of stuff in there.
That's hilarious. So we had a meeting yesterday about the podcast and some stuff that we're going to be doing that's exciting going forward. And Shane's like, hey, has anybody checked the Gmail? I've never looked at the Mike How Much Gmail before.
Oh, well, I didn't even do it purposely. I just went to check my personal Gmail, but how sometimes it auto loads the last one that logged in.
Yeah.
And someone on my computer must have logged into the Mike How Much one
At work.
Yeah.
It might have been. I don't know. I haven't been in there in about 5 months. But I think I might have had to get in there for instructions for something. But anyway.
Well, don't touch my shit.
well, because we both have Avids on our computer.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's on your main, not
just
your
ask
laptop.
first.
Yeah.
No, it's
literally
fine.
8 at night.
I know.
So anyway, I haven't been in there in months. So when you're like, hey, has anyone checked it? I was like, no, I haven't been in there in months. Max, when was the last time you looked at it?
Actually, I think I checked it the day I put out the call for people to, and then I stopped checking.
Oh, so when you ask for people to send voicemails, okay.
But I find an email. I go through and it's this one's just for Shane. And then it was there was another bank who wanted a potential sponsorship. So I'm like, Max, get on this. And then you send an email and the employee no longer works there.
Lost out on that one.
That's hilarious.
My one change I'd like to see, under the rule of law, is I think tinted windows in automobiles.
Oh, we're doing the bit now.
Come on.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no. I'm gonna start. You don't have to have one for today. Just keep
All right.
in mind. Is I
So
think
we'll just be the unfunny guys with no rants. Okay, continue.
no. I mean, no. It's just
Go.
it's fine.
I'm fine being rantless.
Just say I was on my bike today and a guy like pulled out aggressively out of a parking garage, and I wanted to do the stare thing at him, and I couldn't even look at him. And I just think they're dangerous. I think there needs to be some amount of eye contact for different vehicles that are traveling through the city. And I think tinted windows are antisocial behavior, and I think they should be legal. I just don't understand how they are legal.
Well, it's
I
hard
think
to
there is
tell.
laws. I think there's laws about how tinted a window can be.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, I think they should be no tints at all.
Oh wow.
Really?
It's definitely they enforce the law on your front window,
Yeah.
but the side one, I feel like they let it legally. It can be way too tinted.
Way too tinted.
Because if somebody does something a little bit fucked up, you want to look to see how much you can lay on the horn.
Yeah.
Because the equation's always, can I beat this person up if it comes to?
See, that's a good
I'm
hot
like,
take.
what if
There
it's?
you go.
I'm like, what if it's a huge guy in there who could kick my ass?
Uh-huh.
Because I find people do that to me. Sometimes if I do a little honk, like sometimes if the light changes to green,
Uh-huh.
and the person's like texting or something, I'll just try to give them a polite honk. Yeah. But nobody likes being honked at,
No.
so people will often pull up beside me and see if they can take me, and often they'll corner me and get out of their car and yell at me.
Often?
Often?
It's here's the thing, not often now, but I used to wear like Rick Moranis like nerd glasses.
So they thought they could beat you up like.
And that was when I was at the peak of my driving. I drove this little Ford Escort, which is a very shitty looking, pathetic car. And I was wearing the glasses, and I had like a tie because I worked at a cell phone place, so I looked like a little nerd. But sometimes I'd be like beep beep, and my horn sounds pathetic. So men would trap me and come out of the car and be like, "Don't you ever fucking honk at another man," and do that shit to me. And I'm like, "Sorry, sir," but that happened to me like 5 times.
Oh man.
Yeah, it hasn't happened to me since, but I don't really drive anymore.
You know, the other day when we were in the Netherlands on tour, some guy, they have these like narrow streets and there's like a lot of like cyclists and people walking about, and some guy in his car just like raced around a corner like super fast, and it was like really like it was like laying it on, so it was like super loud, and I was just like, "Hey, fuck you, motherfucker!" And
You said that?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I have a
man.
really nasty habit of yelling at automobiles that are driving too fast and motorcycles that are too loud. So whenever I'm with Lauren and a motorcycle passes by, I'm like, that's being like really loud and demonstrative, I'm like, "Way to go, buddy! You look fucking great! Yeah, way to!" And I start clapping my hands. But no one's ever got out of the car to confront me. But one of these days is gonna happen.
I'm a big car kicker.
Oh, really?
And like I like drinking milk, right? People who know me know this. So sometimes it's amazing if a car does something fucked up to me and I have a little carton of milk, because I will throw it because I know it's not going to really hurt the car, but it's going to explode all over their windshield.
do that?
Very dramatic.
Yeah,
You do that?
yeah, and
That's awesome.
Yo, didn't you?
I saw. Yeah.
When we got back from Cuba, you and we did a trip. I don't know if it was that trip, but you kicked a car at the airport. I remember thinking, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, and then it was stupid because a big Russian guy got out and wanted
He wanted to fight you. I was
and
like,
he had
"Oh
like the
shit."
old school like fighting style from
Like
the
the
30s.
Irish,
He
little
lifted
Irish
his
guy.
dukes.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe it when you kicked the car. I was
Because
like,
he stole our cab, Mike.
there's like a cab lineup, and he cut in front of us,
yeah.
and him and his like beautiful wife just got in. They didn't care, and Shane was like, "No, I'm not having it." Kicks the car. It was wild.
You
Yeah.
kicked the cab.
What's that?
You kicked the cab?
Yeah.
It was like he tried to kick the Blackboard
because
door
I was
shut.
pissed not only at the Russian guy, but at the cab driver.
Right.
So it was like
Fair.
a double whammy. It's like, no, we're in line and we're very late to get home. Like that was a terrible, like we missed our flight or something. I just remember it was
Shit
like
was delayed. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in a bad state, and it was one of those things where you get in at like midnight. It's very late, and Shane was ready to fight like a giant, like buff, like
Well, I
oligarch.
was ready to fight till he got out. Then I certainly wasn't ready anymore. But another time, I was walking with my girlfriend at the time, and a car just came up and just almost killed my girlfriend. And I was like, "What the fuck?" So I just got my milk that I was carrying and threw it at the windshield. It exploded.
Wow.
And then the woman rolled down her window. She's like, "I'm sorry, I'm having a really bad day." And And I was like, Helen? And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was a girl I went to high school with. I'm like, I am so sorry. I just,
You knew the girl.
yeah. And she was crying and freaking out, and I had to comfort her. Yeah, I felt Helen Thunderbird.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so
You
funny.
comfort her, like you put your arm around her, but then you slowly start to tighten it.
Well, I started like crying too because I hate when people cry. So it was like this total like flip thing.
Let's go to the car wash. You're helping her get the milk off the windshield.
Yeah.
That's so
But
funny.
yeah, I'm emotionally unstable.
I also find it funny, last thing, when cyclists get really mad at cars. I mean, that's a hot button issue for sure. But there's this Portlandia skit where there's like the angry bike courier. Have you ever seen this
yeah,
one?
Fred
Armisen
yeah.
plays an angry bike courier where he looks like a bike courier who's got like kind of big earrings, like those like spacers.
Yeah.
And he's just pissed off all the time, and
the
he's like,
stupid hat that like tips up.
yeah, exactly. And he's just like, as he's riding his bike through Portland, he's just yelling like, cyclist rights, and he's just hitting everything in his way. So whenever I see a cyclist get mad at a car and like hit the car, there's always something kind of entertaining to me about that.
Yeah,
even though it's kind of dangerous.
Pedestrians hate cyclists. Cyclists hate vehicles. And that's kind of the hierarchy.
And vehicles are like the kings of the road.
Yeah, but vehicles. You know what's funny? This is a bit of a hot take. Is that I actually, as somebody who bicycles around Toronto and sometimes, and you probably relate to this, Erica, who feels sort of unsafe because cars can sometimes not realize you're coming. I also have a lot of sympathy for the drivers in Toronto too, because I've driven in Toronto, and it's hard, and
Jungle out there, man.
It's a jungle out there, and oftentimes you can be really doing your best, and then you can still make a bad move and like not realize that a cyclist is coming.
Well, there's too many cyclists now.
That's what happens in a city with this many people, though. It's just there's too many of us all on top of each other, and it's hard to live in a cohesive way. In some ways, it's kind of majestic that it does work as well as it does.
Well, in Amsterdam, I mean, I think they have a little more experience having to deal with like a streetcar and a car and like a million cyclists all in a tiny little street.
Also, there's only cyclists like 4 months of the year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like we have to readjust to them en masse every year in like May. It's like, oh, here they come again.
Yeah,
But
and every year
not
there's
a lot
more,
of people
too.
are friendly cruising. They're really going for it, like professional cyclists.
Oh, you
Like they're
mean-
going fast.
Like
They're
in our
going
bike
way
lanes.
too fast.
Yeah,
I
that's
find.
I
And they're,
take
like,
it
dinging at
very
each other.
slow. That's the
Yeah,
only way
me
I
too.
feel like really safe.
I
when
do
I'm
agree.
biking.
I do agree. If you're on like, one of the bike lanes on like College Street or something like that, and like during rush hour in the summertime, it is crazy. It's like
Yeah.
the Tour de France. It's fucking nuts.
It's
Yeah.
nuts. Right outside of this office here at E1, you guys, there's a bike lane, and if you leave at if you walk by there at between 5
Richmond,
and
yeah.
5:30 on Richmond, it's honestly like its own car lane going like a bajillion miles an hour,
Yeah.
and they are intimidating. And I was thinking like if I was one of the bikes in there and you're not keeping up, like, yeah, man, you got.
and I ride kind of slow, and I'm always getting
Me too.
overtaken. But
Do you have bike rage if somebody like ding ding and like cuts you off?
no, I don't care. I usually just try to stay out of those lanes altogether. Luckily, I live north and don't have to do like the east-west corridors, so I can usually get from my place down to here all through side streets. So it's actually a quite leisurely, sort of meditative bike ride when I'm coming down here. But yeah, I feel like cyclists in Toronto who think of it as like real exercise. It's like, no, it's like just think about getting to work safely. It's like this idea that like I'm gonna pedal as fast as I fucking can.
Yeah,
It's just so
on
dangerous.
University
to me.
Avenue. Yeah.
It's
I feel
nuts.
like a lot of drivers in Toronto too aren't from the city.
Oh,
you know?
sure. Yeah.
So a lot of them probably come from like, I don't know, GTA or outside suburbs that aren't used to as many like bikers on the street.
Yeah.
Well, I thought of a rant thing.
Okay.
I just thought of a rant thing too. You go first.
Okay, so for drivers who are new to the city, there's these little fucking rule signs that are in like microtype. And it's like if you're trying to read the sign, somebody's up your ass honking. Like, don't you know, no left turns on every third Sunday between 4 and 6. It's like I'm trying to read the sign to figure out the rules. But people who aren't from the city can never read it because it's this big. And you can only actually read it when you've passed the sign. Like once you're too close, you know what I mean? It's not like in 20 meters there's going to be
So better
no
signage.
left turns. Better, bigger signage, and don't put it on the light that tells you the rule. Put it 50 meters ahead, like up ahead, no left turns, or have like a digital thing blinking saying something very clearly. And those parking signs are all bullshit too. Like it's very hard to decipher.
Yeah.
Like speak in layman's terms.
Yo, for
Because
sure.
they're trying to screw you to get a
because
ticket.
you're like, okay, but what about between 12 and 7? Like, what does that mean? Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Erica, what's your rant?
Well, my roommate just texted my group chat. Have you guys
hate
all
that.
have you guys all had roommates?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She said, hey, are you both going to be home tonight? And I know what that means. That means she has a date. And
Oh.
she wants to invite them over, and she wants to hang out in the common area of the house without us around.
Yeah. Oh.
So how do we feel about that? About renting out the common space in the house where we have the cable, the Apple TV, the this, the that. Like, should I be shunned to my room because you have a date?
It's a frequency issue.
Yeah.
What's that?
How often does this happen?
Not that often.
Okay. Well, then,
Loser! Wow,
Throwing shade.
then give her the room. My God.
yeah. It depends on. Yeah. Exactly. The
Yeah.
frequency episode.
If this is happening like 3 times a week, that's an issue.
Yeah.
You're right. It's definitely not.
She seems like a borderline incel the way you're describing it. Never happens ever. Yet it's my number one complaint.
No, it happens occasionally.
Okay.
Well,
nice.
okay, but here's the other thing, though. It's got to be a give and take. Do you do dates in the common room?
I never assume that I can like rent it out.
Right.
If the date is ever happening in the common room, it's like, well, then we're hanging out with my roommates tonight, probably.
What are your thoughts on hanky panky and maybe even sex in the common room?
Like with roommates home?
As long as no one's home,
That's okay.
and as long as you never tell me,
Okay.
do whatever you want, and vice
Right.
versa.
So don't ask, don't tell Paul.
Yeah.
What's
I don't
the
wanna know
issue?
what's
is
happening
it
on
like,
this couch.
Is it like that you're soiling the couch or something?
Well, I would think.
It's a leather couch.
Okay, that's easy to clean then.
Well, yeah. but-
It sounds like you have experience.
Well, pro.
You know what's interesting though, you're highlighting something, Erica, is that there's some people that, like myself, that are very comfortable with like a give and take, especially amongst like friends, where it's like my starting point is like, oh, you need a thing? I'll happily go somewhere else. All good, whatever. It's like you know, you're not doing this 3 times a week. And there's some people like yourself who like would feel guilty about doing
Asking
that,
for it,
about
yeah.
asking. So yeah, it's just like a difference in like your starting points when it comes to like social behavior. Because like I have no problem asking people for favors or like borrowing shit from people or like asking, can I have that? Can I do it? Because if anybody would ask me anything, I'd be like, yeah, sure, take it. Like because I feel like it's, and at least in my mind, maybe I'm delusional, that it's a reciprocal thing. But other people obviously
Yeah.
don't have that starting or don't assume in the same way. So it's just, and that's an interesting dynamic. I think that's why like Dane Hamilton and I work pretty well as like best pals, is that like he knows he can just tell me what to do literally anything, and I'll like, yeah, okay, I'll do that for you, and vice versa.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's get to JFL. Sorry,
All right, welcome to the JFL episode. 45 minutes into the episode.
I can tell Mike was phasing out.
We're at 22.
The
Experience right now.
well, we got to be somewhere. We only have an hour to do these things. Like
Yeah.
Shane and I got to
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
work. We have a job, Max. You get to go to Dan Hamilton's and work out and do all these things where you feel very comfortable doing it, Dan's. Are you going to work today, Erica?
No.
Oh, wow. So, Shaney, we're the only ones on the clock
I'm
here.
sorry, Mike. I got sucked into rant world, and I could see you were annoyed.
Yeah, I can cut my rant out.
It's
No,
not-
no,
you
your
don't
rant
cut
was
anything.
great.
It's just the finite amount of time we
Yeah,
have.
no, it's-
Listen, if this was a Saturday, we could just do rants for 3 hours straight.
Hey, speaking of Mike, though, last thing before we get to
What
JFL
up? Yeah.
is
Last rant, Mike.
Shout out to Mike when we were recording when I was in the Netherlands doing this podcast. The rule is if I'm talking to you guys, I need to put my headphones in so your voices are not being picked up on my microphone.
Bleeding through, yeah.
Bleeding through.
There's a natural delay on the...
There's a natural delay, and also it was a bad internet connection. So there's times where like I didn't hear anything, and then you hear the and then it catches up. But anyway, basically that made the edit job for that episode, the last episode that you heard, the one with me going to the rave, basically impossible. And Mike had to like literally spend, how long did it take you?
It was a long time.
Like give me like how many hours?
Oh, like collectively, like over 3 hours. But I had to go home, put the baby to bed, and then come back to work to finish.
Yeah.
Erica was on vacation.
So
otherwise she would've
typically
dealt
an
with it.
edit job that might take like how long?
Oh, yeah, like whatever. Like the length of
45
the
minutes or so.
episode
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it was a fucking nightmare. So shout out to Mike
Oh,
for
You didn't have headphones on?
No, I
Damn.
realized
Yeah.
2/3 the way through the episode. I'm like, guys, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's all good.
all right.
So this is the Just for Laughs episode. Shane and I just got back from Montreal a couple days ago. It is the Comedy Coachella. We've talked about it the last 3 years. It's the best thing that I think that we get to do as like sort of a perk of having this podcast is going to Just for Laughs, getting interviews, seeing all the shows. The festival is always so good to the podcast. We get like free tickets to everything. Last year you heard us talk about seeing Dave Chappelle and John Mayer in like a little bar smaller than the Horseshoe at like midnight. him do a 2.5-hour set. Tiffany Haddish got up. Chappelle got hammered. He did a shot with Shane and I. It was a magical moment, and that sort of encapsulates why JFL can be so great. You're around some of the biggest comedy names in the world, sitting just as far as the four of us are sitting from each other right now, because everybody hangs out at this bar at the hotel that all the people stay at. It used to be the Hyatt. They just changed it to a DoubleTree this year, which was confusing because they're like, well, you're staying in the DoubleTree. And we were like, no, we need to stay in the Hyatt.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they changed their name to the DoubleTree. I'm like,
Who do
Yeah.
we think? Who makes this happen for us? Is it Justin? Is it Sarah?
It's Justin and Mike McShane are the ones that give the green light to send us.
Wow.
That pay
That's
for this
crazy.
trip, which is so nice, so that we can have this great episode of the podcast. We haven't even said off the top that our guests today are two Conan O'Brien writers who have their own podcast called Inside Conan, where they talk about sort of how you make, it's kind of the minutiae of how you make a late night show. And their names are Mike Sweeney and Jesse Gaskell.
I'm so excited to listen to this.
Yeah, it was-
because I love Conan a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to know all about it.
They're great. You know, we talk about their well, we'll get to them once we get to the interview. But before we get to them, we flew in on Wednesday night and we left Saturday morning because our friend AJ and Carly they got married, which was we'll have to talk about.
We'll
that
have
in
an
another
episode about that
just
too.
about that
Yeah.
because that was its own damn thing. That wedding
It
was
was a very funny wedding. Are
Yeah.
you drinking my coffee, Max? Yeah, sure. Just ask her.
That was a callback to the rants. We got into town, and the first show we saw, we literally we landed at 7:20, and we went right to Steve-O of Jackass fame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he had a show at this big theater, a big theater called Olympia or L'Olympia in Montreal. Oh, you know it.
Well, I just saw Fred Armisen post a photo from there. I follow
That's
him
where
on
his
Instagram.
show
Yeah.
was, and then a couple nights later we saw Crawl. But we'll sort of walk through the order of events. But we saw Steve-O at a theater. First thing we saw that night, and Shaney, what were your thoughts?
Did he just get kicked in the balls and stuff? Is that his bit?
That's what you'd think. We didn't know what to expect.
That was the opener, the first half hour.
Bring out the balls.
No, he did kind of what I did for our first live show. So he told stories, set them up, and then would throw to a video.
Okay.
And the big climax, no pun intended, was him jerking off and coming right before he jumps out of an airplane. To go
Skydives.
skydiving. So he kind of opens up. That's what he always wanted to do. That was his dream.
It's called Steve-O's bucket list.
Yeah.
To jerk off and then...
So every stunt he shows are on his bucket list.
Okay.
So he sets up how he did the stunt. He had to find so your first time jumping out of a plane, you need to have a guy jump with you. So the hardest part was him and his production team trying to find a guy that was willing to be strapped to him while he masturbated.
But he wanted to orgasm just as he jumped out. So
He had to time it.
Yeah, so he didn't jerk off for 4 days. So he was all pent up, and then he got all this special porn, but there was computer issues, and the porn was skipping, and then it
And if they miss their certain altitude, he misses the jump window. So it's
That's a lot of
really
and he had a team
Perform.
lubing him up and stuff, and he painted his dick area completely black. It was interesting.
Yeah, so but he here's what I'll say about Steve-O's show is that he put a lot of thought into it, and I thought it was a pretty well-oiled machine as far as the mechanics of it. His story construction was good. He's clearly done the show a few times. The throwing of the video, it all really worked. Like Shane said, it reminded us of the stuff that Shane did at our first show.
It wasn't just a stupid guy throwing the stupid stunts. It was well crafted.
Yeah, exactly. And he had his people there, man. People were there, and they were drunk, and they were rowdy, and they were, like Jackass fans were really sort of into it. And it's funny because a lot of the sexual, the masturbating or him running around nude or shitting on things, that's kind of what you expect from Steve-O, and it's entertaining. He closed with a really sort of violent self-mutilation thing, and it's that's not my it's hard for me to watch that stuff. It's not as fun
a
anymore.
video of him hurting
Yes,
himself?
yeah.
Well, it was just super scary and irresponsible and borderline life-threatening. And
But here's the thing. But this is what his fans want. So even though Shane and I were kind of ooh, he should have closed on the skydiving masturbation, which was kind of frivolous and fun and no harm, no foul. This other one was very sort of he harmed himself a lot. But when it happened, there's an explosion. And we don't want to give away his whole show in case people want to see it. Which was very entertaining. His core fan base, when the explosion happens, they're losing it. That's kind of what they get out of Jackass is watching somebody stick a needle in their nuts or doing things, falling from a high sort of a big height or whatever. to me, that was kind of like I wish he got out on the other climax.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more about the stories leading up to the video clips than the video clips themselves. It's like
Yeah.
the video clips were kind of like the payoff, which filled in.
How old is he? Would you guess?
I think he's in his early 40s, 42.
I think he said his age.
I wonder
too
how
at one
long
point.
he can do this for.
Well, he just mentioned that he's in his 40s,
Right.
right? Because he's saying how he can't do this for much longer.
Right, so he had to do the bucket list now. Anyway, it was a good show, and then from there we went to Midnight Surprise, where Chris Redd, former guest on the Mike on Much podcast, as well as Mike in Conversation with Shane, did a digital dessert last year with them. An improv
Very
skit.
funny digital design.
Yeah,
So fun.
that might have been my favorite on the Crazy
It
Show.
was definitely the most polarizing / made some of my family not like me anymore.
Was it the rapping?
It was the rapping. It was just I didn't want anyone to watch that one, and then certain like my in-laws were okay with it. Maybe not my mother-in-law, but my father-in-law was okay with it. But his brother was very, very put off by it, and I think
Well,
their family.
Can't really blame him.
Yeah. Well, I took.
You just said it was your favorite.
Well, I love it, but I wouldn't want my brother to do some crazy stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I'm very proud and embarrassed and ashamed by it.
No, it was great. It was great. I loved it.
It's like the life experience in some
Yeah.
ways. So Chris Redd hosts the Midnight Surprise. We've talked about it before. The thing that makes Midnight Surprise so awesome is that you don't know who's going to be there. You just have to show up and have faith that, and it starts at midnight. It's its namesake, and they're going to bring out 4 comics. You know that it's going to be hosted by Chris Redd, and you don't know who you're going to get. Like I said, last year we got Chappelle and Mayer, which was amazing. So first comic out after Chris Redd opens on our first night was Neil Brennan.
Oh, cool. And by the way, are they like hanging about? Like, are you guessing? Like, oh, Neil Brennan's over there.
100%.
We always hang out in the spot that the comedians hang out when they're in the queue to go next.
Okay.
And so I don't even look at the comedian on stage. I'm always just staring at the comedian about to go on.
Yeah.
Because they'll often be talking to themselves and like
Oh, cool.
getting pumped. And it's very interesting to watch the behind the scenes.
Cool.
So Neil Brennan, for those that don't know, he co-created the Chappelle Show, and 3 Mics is his famous stand-up special. So he opened. Felt like, but what's cool about it is people like work out their material. Like Shane and I 2 years ago saw Kevin Hart kind of come out, and he's just like trying shit, and then that ended up in his huge special the next year at the Bell Center, and that's on Netflix now. So you get to see these guys kind of work their craft, which I think is sort of the biggest draw about Just for Laughs, especially a midnight show like that. So Neil Brennan just comes out working shit. Some stuff's like really killing. Some stuff's kind of like this. And he's like, all right, I'll try this, and then he does that. That night we also
Strict
saw
no cell phone policy, I imagine.
No. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very taboo though to pull out your phone and like start taking photos or shooting. Like, I mean, they have like a recording that's like no video, blah 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 blah, and then a little song comes on. But like, if you were to pull out your phone, someone would probably stop you. At the Chappelle Mayer one, they put everything in sacks. They weren't gonna let you even risk it. And then after him, we saw a famous comedian, Blake Griffin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For the basketball fans out
NBA
there,
player.
that must be very exciting.
So he was hovering in the back, like Shane said. We're like, oh shit, there's Blake Griffin. All 6'10" of them, reading his notes, getting ready to go up, kind of psyching himself up. So for like those of you who don't know, he's like an all-star power forward for the Detroit Pistons, and he is a big comedy fan. So he's been doing stand-up. He's like developing a show, stuff like that. But anyway, his stand-up wasn't bad. He was good. Like he was like. I don't know. I never know how to say it. Is he funny for an athlete, or is he like?
I think that's the way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
What was the bits? What were they like?
I thought he was more actually sort of confident with his stand-up rhythms than a John Mayer.
Well, I feel like John Mayer is better off the cuff, and I
Right.
feel like that bit wasn't super planned with Chappelle.
Yep.
Whereas Blake had tried and tested material. Like, so his routine was like, it's funny, you guys are all here to see me, but can you imagine if a comedian played in an NBA game? Introducing at starting center, Cat Williams. And, it was
No one
kinda
would
like
ever
that.
pay to go to an NBA game
Sure,
to see
sure.
a comedian.
In case you didn't get the bit. Thanks, Mike.
Well, everybody was
It
dead
bombed.
silent. Yeah, it got a huge laugh for Blake. I was
Delivery is important.
And that was the first night, and then we ended up going like back and like just partying hard because essentially we got off the plane and just were like JFL Montreal, glug 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 glug. Like it was a really fun night back at the lobby bar. Like we said, everybody goes back because all of these comedians, their shows end either at midnight or if they're part of the Midnight Surprise at like 2, right? But there's people there's roast battles at midnight with Jeff Ross, all this stuff. So all the comedians who sleep on these wild schedules they all just start going at 2. So that bar at the Hyatt, now DoubleTree, gets wild. So Blake Griffin's just there hanging out. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm getting a photo with Blake Griffin.
Oh, nice.
I'm an NBA fan. I'm good. I'm going to get a photo with him. So I go up to him and I'm like, hey, Blake, I'm from Toronto. So we're really close to Detroit. You're really good tonight at the Midnight Surprise. He's like, oh, thanks, man. I'm like, do you mind if I get a photo? He's like, no, not at all. So like we do a photo, but it's like, I'm only going to do it once.
Yeah.
And you can't look at it until you walk away.
Uh-huh.
So I do the photo.
Selfie?
Yeah.
Okay.
But wait, you're not going to ruin my story about you, are you?
No.
Okay.
Well, what's the story? Well, just the punchline about the photo?
Well, I don't just tell it. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, you go from your perspective.
No. I just thought it was very funny your reaction to the photo.
Yeah. But I've still got to get to the part where I see the photo.
Okay, go. Sorry. I thought we discussed this before. Sorry.
So I go back and look at the photo, and I'm like, I can't post the photo because I feel like Blake doesn't look happy to be having the photo with me.
Okay.
Which would have led to your thing.
No, it's okay. No,
Tell your story.
no, I can't because now I know the reason why. Because
But I already told you that.
right. Okay. No, it's fine.
This is hilarious. This has never
Yeah,
happened
Trouble
before.
in Paradise.
Yeah, because that was my whole thing. I was going to post it, and then it was like Blake looked so unhappy.
Yeah,
It looked like
it's a
I
classic
was.
celebrity photo where they're like the celebrity is being bothered again.
That's what
even
it-
though
Yeah,
that's
too
not
cool.
what actually.
No, the
was.
conversation felt fine, but because he's also so tall and it's like a low angle,
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, I'm like, it just looks like I bothered him at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
and that's not fun for anybody. We'll post it on our socials. That was always going to be the plan
Yeah.
after I told the story.
Yeah. That's very annoying when you're like, I'm so excited to get this shot, and then something's fucked up about it. You're like, it's not
Yeah,
even worth
it's fine. It's just like, oh, I feel like such a loser, and
Yeah.
I totally I encroached on his time, so I'm like,
Yeah, I
I'm
get-
not posting that.
Yeah. Hey, Blake, can we do it again? Just like, smile a little bit more.
and I was going to go back and get another one.
Oh, you're gonna do it?
I was like, I should go back. I should do another one. Again, I'm drunk by this
Yeah.
point, so I'm like, but I did not end up going back and getting photos with,
Smart.
which I'm glad about.
Yeah.
And it's like, but yeah, at one point I wanted to go talk to Neil Brennan, but that first night it was like Shane was like, we're getting out of the bar right now, and I was like, all right, let's leave.
How many like plebes are there versus normal like big time comedians?
That's a good question. I don't see. Here's the thing, though. Not many. Like what do you mean by plebes? Like
you guys.
Well, but we're industry. Like we're actually working. Like we're there. We interview people. We're part
Sure,
of the
I guess I
infrastructure.
mean to say like I know you're in the infrastructure, but like how many like
Well, no,
Like-
see, there's
like-
different things because there's like you have just comedy super fans that now know about the Hyatt bar, or you have like groupies that are kind of hanging around wanting to see celebrities. Then you have people that are actually worked or like went to shows and then they're press sort of deal, like say like us would be industry. So it's like even like you see the publicists or you see this, and it's like you have an interview.
I
with
wasn't
Blake
sure if it
Griffin
was
the
like
next day.
just comedians or
It's like
what the
comedians,
various
their
groups were.
entourages, industry people, then people like Justin Stockman, who's there to hear pitches to buy shows for for Crave, people that are there to hear pitches for like Comedy Central in the States. So it's like it's basically like you had the heads of HBO, Fox, Showtime, all of them. Like they're doing panels during the day. It's like this huge like mega hub. All these people are out for drinks in this lobby bar, and then it's like, oh, there goes Kevin Hart. So like if like I guess
Oh, I see. Okay.
so I don't know what you mean. Like,
No, that makes sense. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was like just comedians. In my mind, it was like just comedians.
No.
hanging out, or if it was more of a mix of people.
There's like basically there's like levels of passes. Think about it like Coachella.
Sure,
Not
sure.
everyone in that backstage area with Leonardo DiCaprio is a musician or a famous
Yeah.
person, but they're like either part of that group or they're like music managers
Okay.
or label heads, things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Would you agree with that? That's kind of the mix of
Yeah.
people.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of the vibe.
Sure.
But anyway, and it's not weird to go up and say, "Hey, good show,"
No,
or
no,
something
no,
like
no,
that. Like
yeah.
nobody's like, "Oh, fuck," because they know it's just mostly industry people.
Yeah.
Except for if you're me and be like, Blake, can I have a photo? So yeah, that was the first night, and then the second night, what did we do? Was that Neil Brennan was the last night. So the second night was no, Neil Brennan was the second night.
No, Neil was the first night.
No, Steve was the first night.
Yeah, but then we went to the Midnight Surprise show where Neil Brennan.
Sorry, I'm talking about Nick Kroll. I'm mixing
Yeah.
up my ends. Yeah, you're 100% right. So the second night, our first show of the night is Nick Kroll. Actually, what did we do that day? Oh, we saw our patron saint Justin Stockman on a panel with all. It was like him, who's like the head of Crave, with all the heads of like the people. They had such interesting stories about like I've been saying for the last like 15 years, go find me a show like Friends, because they greenlight comedies and all this stuff, and it's so insidery. And if you get one of these sort of passes to JFL, that's like an elite pass, or I don't know what they would cost. We're lucky enough to just have them. You get to hear so many good insidery sort of stories on
from
these
like
panels.
the network execs.
If you're into that industry,
No,
shit,
that's cool.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that
It's
is
like
cool.
it's very insidery. But that night we went to Nick Kroll, who we'd never seen live.
He's awesome stand-up. Like I saw him a couple of years ago open for Amy Schumer and Aziz Ansari, I think, at Molson Amphitheater at the time, Budweiser stage, and I thought he was wicked as a stand-up. Was he good?
Yeah, he was probably my favorite one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's edgier than you think too, I thought.
He was more like less edgy and more emotional.
Oh, interesting.
And like told relatable stories about, being broken up with and someone not being attracted to him, and then it was almost like an adult version of Big Mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big Mouth is awesome if you haven't seen it.
People love Big Mouth.
Yeah.
So speaking of Big Mouth, he brought out 2 openers. So again, Nick Kroll was at this theater that Stevie was at, Olympia in Montreal, and he had 2 openers. And they're both writers on the show, but also stand-up comedians in their own right. That's probably how they find. They're like younger comedians. But the second person to come out, her name is Patty Harrison. Have you heard of Patty Harrison?
Heard that name, yeah.
So she was like, we didn't know what to expect because her bit was very interesting. She comes out and she's very sort of like low key, and she's like, I write music, and Nick said that he'd give me this platform, which is really nice because I'm very self-conscious about my music. And it's kind of that thing where you go, is this Ernest? Like, were you thinking like this is totally, I don't know what to make of this?
I knew it was a joke just because it was just for laughs, but she did it very, very convincingly.
And committed.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 5-minute open of that before you get
Her
to
just being really sheepish and insecure about it all.
And she's like, do you want to hear a song? And then she's like, okay, play the track. And then she does a song, and it's fucking hilarious. It's like dirty and ridiculous and absurd, and it completely goes against, like, she'll explain how she wrote it and that she wrote it for Dua Lipa, and then it's like, it's just so fucking funny. So she did 3 of those, and it was really performative. She was kind of dressed like Sporty Spice, like, just, it was really, really funny.
So she like breaks out of her shell for the performance, and then does she get really small again after the
Yeah,
song's
she's
done?
kind of like, oh, sorry, like this and that.
yeah.
I'm not really much of a singer, but then at times she's really good, and the content of the lyrics are really funny, like dirty and kind of hilarious. And
Patty Harrison.
So I'd recommend going to see her. But so when we walk out, we're like all like, Nick Kroll was like amazing, but Patty Harrison was like amazing. Like she was the one that we didn't know or hadn't seen before. And then I'm trying to think of anything else that happened. Nick Kroll was amazing. He was probably the best, that, like Shane said. Him or that mustached guy. And I feel terrible that I don't know that mustache guy's name.
Nick Offerman.
No, we can't remember his name, but he basically went up at the Midnight Surprise and we thought he was going to suck. And he was just fucking... I laughed harder at that guy in his 5 minutes than anything else that
Wow.
weekend. So he was kind of special. And I saw him at the party after, and I said, hey, blah, blah, that was like amazing. And I still have not gone back and tried to find his name. Also, I feel like people are going to be like, what was the Blake Griffin story? You should just tell it as it was.
Here's the thing. We might have had this conversation drunk, and maybe you don't remember, but I was like, Mike, let me set up the Blake Griffin thing. And I was like, I know you're worried I'm going to make it seem like you're too drunk, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I won't do that. I'll make it seem like fun.
I just thought it was the punchline that you wanted, which I thought you were going to get to, which is be...
Well, the whole thing was just funny how you were being that night, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, let me tell it." And then I was like, maybe you were steamrolling because you didn't want me to say anything. But I was like, "Oh, fine."
How would you have told it? Just get on
Yeah.
with it.
Well, I got a photo with Steve-O and stuff, and I was gonna get into that, but okay. So anyway, I was kind of. I guess the story would be I was following Mike's way he drinks that night, which is never to eat any food. And then, if you have an energy drink and you drink alcohol, typically you go nuts. Like I've done research on this. It's actually like the worst thing you can do is mix an energy drink with alcohol.
Yeah,
like
fair.
On an empty stomach.
just even in general. It's the reason Four Locos have been banned for years since 2010. So anyway, we were doing that. We never had time to eat. And then after the last midnight show, I'm starting to feel very fucked up. So I go back to the DoubleTree bar, and I'm just like, uh-oh, this is turning bad. Like I'm actually super sober because I'm so drunk, and I'm scared about what's like happening to my brain. So I sneak out and go to the McDonald's, and then when I come back, Mike is kind of like down, and I'm like, oh, Mike's wrong. Mike, what's wrong? He's like, oh, I got a stupid picture with Blake Griffin. I go, oh, come on, let me see it. And he shows me the picture, and I'm like, oh, you look good in that photo. He goes, oh, I know. I look sexy as fuck. and I'm like, so what's wrong with that? He's like, we don't look happy. It's like, I want to be happy in these photos. It's gonna look like we're not having fun. And I'm like, for me, all I want to do is look sexy in the photo. And I'm like, anytime I put up a celebrity photo, I always look like an idiot because you only get one shot at a celebrity photo and you can't go through them. So, and then I'm like, oh shit, I just took a celebrity photo with Steve-O because at the McDonald's, he happened to be there.
Oh, wow.
But then I look at my picture that I just put on Instagram and I'm like, fuck, we both look happy, but I look unsexy as fuck. And that's the thing that I covet. So I just deleted immediately. And then my wife's like, why are you deleting that photo? I'm like, I just ran out of space, so I put it up, and then I deleted it down. But really, it was because I didn't look very good. And then...
Why would she care if you deleted the photo? She's suspicious of
She's
something?
suspicious of everything I do. It always means something. It's like, who are you trying to impress? You know you look ugly in that photo. Keep that up. But then I talked to Justin Stockman, and then all of a sudden Mike's mood changes, and he's just high-fiving everyone in the bar. Like, he's like, pay the toll, and he's giving everyone a high five.
I clearly gotten over the Blake Griffin disappointment.
Yeah, like now he's like super pumped, and this behavior, like if it was me, it would be kind of par for the course. But for Mike, this is very odd behavior because Mike doesn't do this. And then Stockman looks at me and he goes, "Well, he's your problem now." And then I was just like, "Okay, I'll take him to McDonald's." And then I go over to him, and Mike's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go up to Neil Brennan right now and get a good happy photo." And I'm like, no. Neil's like really like, he's too cool for that. We'll get it tomorrow. Trust me. Like we'll get it later. And then I take him to the McDonald's, and then I loaded him up with nuggets and French fries.
Good friend.
That's awesome.
But
you ended up getting the photo though.
No, that was two nights later.
Oh,
that was our big finale.
As you
of the
promised.
Night.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was a really fun night. But yeah, the next day I was like, I called Danica and the baby, and we're doing like a FaceTime. I'm like, hey, babes, like, really went for it that first night. We got off the plane and just kept going. I'm like, sorry I didn't call you when I got in. She goes, oh, you called me. I went, oh, great, sweet, okay. Yeah, she's like, I'm glad you had fun. I'm like, yeah. And then we continued. But the thing is, because I went way up that first night, the rest of my experience was very like, you can't really get back there. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, just enjoy the shows, hang out, drink till 3, but it's a lot more casual drinking.
Yeah.
For my experience, anyway.
Do you guys get to sleep in while you're there?
Yeah,
You do,
well,
yeah.
this year,
Days start
luckily
late.
or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, we didn't have as much to do as we did last year. Like,
Right.
last year, I was waking up hungover, and I'd have to shoot like
Yeah, I remember
2
that.
bits.
Yeah.
And then Mike would have 3 interviews.
Yeah.
So we only really had the one interview. Mind you, it was very good. Like, Conan's my idol, so it was amazing to speak with the long-time writer he had. But yeah, it was pretty casual. It was almost like a paid vacation, kind of. Like, is that bad to say?
Well, yeah, they're all listening to this. Next year's over. Yeah, between Justin Stockman, Mike McShane, and Sarah McLaren, they make it happen. And in the past, we've gotten far more interviews. It seemed like this year, everybody was like, it was like a hard no. Like at one point, it's like, Howie Mandel doesn't even do podcasts. It's like, oh, okay. So it's like, it was a little bit more difficult this year. But, you know, like I said, we got instead of getting 15 minutes with everybody, it was nicer to get like 45 minutes with Mike Sweeney and Jesse Gaskell. So, yeah, it was good, but you can sleep in. But there's panels happening all the time. Like there's
Right.
there'll be people doing live podcasts at like 10 a.m. or, you know, Justin's panel was at 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So you can kind of figure out your sleep schedule from that. But most of the action at JFL on the weekend takes place between like 7 and 2
Was
in the
Mulaney
morning.
there, by the way?
He'll be in Toronto just for
Oh,
us.
okay.
Yeah. But so that was good. And then I guess on the last night, who did we see? Oh, we saw, does anyone know that show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so I like that show. I've seen like 3 or 4 episodes because a critic I like, Alan Sepinwall, used to review it and he liked it. And I like that the woman that's on that show, her name's Rachel Bloom. So she had like a show at like this kind of small Montreal theater that I wanted to go to. I asked for tickets. Shane was going to go see, I think, Pete Holmes. And so we were going to split up and then re-meet and go see Marc Maron. That was kind of how you plan it because you request whatever you want. So like, I want to see Rachel Bloom. You go see Pete Holmes. They couldn't give us Pete Holmes tickets. So like, well, we can give you an extra Rachel Bloom ticket. So I ended up bringing, so I'm like, let's go see. And he's never watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He's not super familiar with her work. And she was interesting. She was like a theater kid. It was very musical, which is obviously in line with her show. and a bit blue at times. And she had I felt like it picked up steam as it went along. And her fans are so devoted that it's like if you were in that crowd, you loved her. But if you're somebody that's kind of coming with no clue of what you're about to see, like Shane, it's a completely different sort of experience.
Do you guys like musical comedies, like when a guy picks up an acoustic guitar and like sings a song? I generally,
It has to be excellent. It has to be like Lonely Island good.
Or Adam
Yeah,
Sandler.
yeah.
Sandler used to do that a lot.
Even
with Zach.
Sandler stuff doesn't totally do it for me. Like occasionally, I think it's good, but a lot of it's just like these are just like unfunny-ish jokes set over like some acoustic music. I actually, I do love the Lonely Island stuff though,
Yeah.
which is a little different though to me.
Music comedy sort of
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, joke songs and stuff like that. Well, Patty Harrison, I honestly the way she did joke songs was brilliant, and in some ways kind of like took the heat. Like it's like whatever Rachel Bloom does, which you're like, ooh, like it's like these sort of parody songs. She'll do like a Disney song, but then it will be about her jealousy or whatever like that. Because Patty's stuff was so funny.
Well, on a musical level, Patty's stuff was amazing. Even if it wasn't funny, it was just like, wow, this is an excellent song that's actually I would listen to even if it didn't have any comedic value. But the fact that it also crossed the Venn diagram where it had both, like awesome laughs and awesome production and song quality, it just made it so much better than this. What's her name? The other
Rachel
one?
Bloom.
Rachel Bloom, who all of her songs I thought I could do better.
Oh, sure.
Like I'm a funnier rapper than this.
Yeah,
Even if it's not true, that's what I thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I left the show 5 songs in. Which,
Is that really rude?
A walkout.
oh, well, I
so
did,
dark,
I,
you
I
can't
did
tell.
it very like if I even had to ask like excuse me to one person, I wouldn't have done it. But I always take aisle seats because I tend to pee a lot during shows. Yeah, she probably just thought I was going to the washroom.
Yeah. But I thought by the end she'd really picked up steam, and her show was very entertaining. So I enjoyed it. And then that night we saw Maron, which was
Who's
fascinating.
the Podfather of all
Podfather.
pods. Yeah.
Maron's awesome.
His
Yeah.
stand-up was really good.
See, that's funny because
I
I
know.
never really thought about him as a stand-up comedian, and I even listened to his show, which I love. I can't imagine him as a stand-up comedian, even though that's like the life he's lived for the last 30 years.
He had a different energy. He had a really warm energy. He played with the crowd. He was really in command. Like obviously he's been doing it for like 30 years or whatever it is, but he was good and his bits were tight.
I thought some of it was improvised, or were you saying that there's like some...
It feels improvised. I don't know if it is, but a lot of it feels like he's kind of riffing, making it up on the spot. And from listening to his podcast, it seems like he kind of goes in with not a solid plan. So he has like tried and tested bits, and then he'll go off the cuff depending on how it's going.
Yeah, totally. But then he has he needs to get to certain stories and he had to get to his closer. He actually went really long too. So it's like if you're a Marc Maron fan and it was like ended up being like almost like an hour and 40 minutes. They started to blink the red light.
Yeah, of course.
Because it was a show that started at 9. I don't think we got out of there till like 11:40 or something.
Wow.
But it was interesting if you're there for the ride, and the people that were there again, like they are Marc Maron fans. But yeah, I thought it was really impressive because again, like I know him as an interview, as a podcaster, and those first 12 minutes are like, okay, it's Mark, but it's like I'm not like I need to see his stand up. I was super impressed with his stand up, which was really good.
And we also saw an award show.
Yeah, we should talk about the award show. I also sat beside his manager. Because I got in I didn't have a ticket to Maron, so I had to use my pass to get in. So they put me in like an area. So I sat beside his manager, who was interesting to hear her laugh at certain things and laugh almost very loud, like to be supportive in some way, so he could hear her. It was a very interesting experience. But when they threw the red light on, she's the one that tipped me off because she had like an assistant with her and she pointed at the red light and she thought that was hilarious. That they were trying to red light the headliner, like wrap it up. It's like no, I'll go as long as I want to go. Some of these people paid like $100 for a ticket.
Yeah.
But the award show. We've talked about this in the past. Like they have this really bizarre, cool award show. We saw Jim Carrey get honored. It's in this ballroom that holds like maybe 250 people or something like that. And you have the cream of the crop of comedy just sitting there. Like we hadn't seen him all weekend. I don't know if he was announced for any shows, but like just before the show starts, Kevin Hart comes walking in with his security. Like,
Oh, this year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
everybody goes to this award show and it takes place at 3 p.m. in a ballroom in the basement of the Doubletree Hotel.
Wow.
But they take it seriously because they all respect the festival so much. So yeah, this year they had Hassan Minaj, Jim Jeffries, Jimmy Carr, like I said, Kevin Hart.
Nick Kroll won an award.
Nick Kroll won an award, and the writing staff of Big Mouth.
Oh, wow.
So, but it was funny when Nick came walking in because he had a real swagger. Like,
Yeah, and he was wearing like a very, very nice suit, and he has a girlfriend who's very tall. And then the second he sat down, his girlfriend pulled out this huge camera and just started snapping photos of him with like this blinding flash,
like a Polaroid.
He was making such a scene; it was insane.
Yeah, it was like the swagger he walked in with. We were just like, wow.
And then the Polaroid's like, zzzz, and she's like shaking it. It was very weird. It's like, who does that? I thought it was a bit almost, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it was good. Did anything else stand out to you about the award show?
Well, Jim Jeffries was
Oh
just
my God.
hilarious. Like, I'm not sure if you know who
Yeah, I
that
know.
is,
Yeah, the
Australian
Australian
comedian,
guy.
but
He's sort of like a little rough around the edges, like in terms of like
Yeah.
the content he gets into. Actually, one of Unzi's pals writes for Jim Jeffries' show, and I hung out with him when they were doing a heist episode in L.A.
I forgot.
Fuck, I forget his name. He's a comedian, something like RJ something. Or, you know what I'm talking about?
Cool.
He's a Canadian dude.
You
But-
you just reminded me that we met Tim McCallum,
Yeah, from
Unsworth's
our
buddy.
podcast.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we said what's up, hung with him for a bit.
Well, we didn't just say what's up. So Mike had his night where he went like, his version of Out of His Mind, which is just high-fiving everybody and being like, let's have fun. And then my version's kind of like, I just tell everyone they're a piece of shit and stuff. So it's like in a very like funny way that I always think people get. So we see Tim McCallum, and Tim McCallum's like the writer for he was the head writer for Last Man on Earth.
Yeah, he wrote for The
Will
Office, wrote for
Forte show.
Fallon.
So he's a guy I very much want to impress. So I'm like, in my drunk mind, I guess, I'm going to be real funny for him. So he comes up, he's like, oh, guys, you're Unsworth's buddies. He always has the nicest things to say about you. I'm like, fucking Unsworth, fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit. And then he's like, what? I'm like, if he really loved us, he'd be here with us partying. He doesn't give a shit. And I was really putting him off. And then the next day, I just had a flashback. I was like, "Oh, Mike, was it as bad as I think?" And like, how do you think?
Yeah, he came up because he came up and it was like 3 a.m. and everyone's in the thing, and he was kind of heading out, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And I'd just run into him earlier, and he was just being really earnest, like Shane said.
Because he's an earnest guy.
100%. He's like, Unzi, or he's like, Matt always says how amazing you guys are, and Shane he's like, fuck him. I know Shane's joke style. Like, I know that it's like it'd be the most ridiculous thing to say, so that's the way Shane's doing it. Yeah. And Tim didn't really know what to make of it, but it was also 3, so Tim had probably had some drinks and he was enjoying the night. But the energy shifted, and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get us out of this? I'm like, he's kidding. I'm like, Shane's kidding. He's like, no, fuck him. And then I'm like, he's kidding. But seriously, how was your night, man? And then like I'm trying to engage on like a normal conversation level, but then Shane would keep like piping in, and then that was the night that Shane went and got a Domino's. But then the next day I was like, listen, I'm like, chances are it was 3 a.m. He was probably drunk too. It won't be that weird. And then I was like, but yeah, you did your joke thing where you basically called Unsworth a piece of shit, and he goes, fuck.
So then it's on my mind all day. So then that night I just go to the bar and Tim's with somebody. I didn't see him. And he's like, hey, man. And I'm like, I'm like, hey, Tim. Hi. And he's just like, hi. And I'm like, uh-oh, he's being weird with me. So I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. Like yesterday, I'm a normal guy. Like I'm totally normal, which, normal guys say that kind of stuff. So he's like, what are you talking about? I go, oh, I'm sorry about yesterday. He goes, what happened? I go, oh, I was telling Unsworth that he's a piece of shit and stuff. He goes, oh, where you were? He's like, oh, that was fine. I was probably more screwed up than you. So I got out of it kind of scot-free. So I wish I hadn't really said anything because I was actually acting weirder in my apology than he would have even
people
thought.
are kind of generally uncomfortable with apologies unless it's something like really serious where a person is like, it's important to me
That's a
that they
good point.
apologize. It's like apologizing for something. If someone's made an ass of themselves and like goes out of the way to be like, I'm sorry, that thing I did, and you're like, okay, just gotta stop.
But after you do something drunk, it's the veil of shame is high for me because I don't know how far I crossed the line because I don't remember all that well.
Yeah, I
so
guess it
I
depends.
like to play it safe and give the apology.
I guess it depends on how hard you go on the apology.
Yeah.
If you kept it short, you're like, if I was being a little weird last night, sorry. Anyway, like you keep it moving. But if it's like, hey man, I just want to apologize for my behavior.
Yeah, they're gonna think that you said something that really crossed the line.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Actually, that reminds me. We were at a work event a while ago, and like a couple days after the work event, like a coworker who's like pretty senior came up to us, and they were like, "Hey, I was pretty drunk last night, and I can't quite remember what I said, but I heard it was like to you guys." And Shane and I were like, no, because we sit together at work. We're like, no, we're good. Like, you're good. You were fine with us. And they were like, oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I couldn't quite put it together and I couldn't remember. And they walk away, and then Shane and I look at each other like, They fucked up somehow, and it wasn't with us.
Well, no, I said to the woman, I go, it's so nice to be on the other end of one of these.
Oh, that was I forgot that line. That's hilarious. I was trying to obscure the gender.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, whatever.
And then lastly, I guess very last night before we left, we hung out with Webby D.
Webby D. We don't talk about Webby D anymore. I feel like Intern Erica's really kind of inched in on the sort of the tertiary person that gets talked about.
Yeah, Webby D. He's a formative guy for the show because he's the
best.
He's the best, and also a massive comedy fan.
Massive comedy fan. So like our last night is the big Netflix party. So open bar, but it's not at the DoubleTree / Hyatt. It's like up at the other headquarters. It's really like an 11-minute walk, but open bar, slammed, like amazing hors d'oeuvres, and like. So we go there. And like Shane said, like night 1 was my night. And so Shane was kind of like, I'm going for it. Like
nights 2, 3, and 4 were mine.
Those were his nights.
Because to my credit, I was a totally normal person on night 1.
You were. You saved my ass by getting into that McDonald's and stuffing those nuggets in my mouth.
I did hand feed him nuggets.
You did.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Well, what was that? You told me. I was like, I don't want beef.
Well, what happened is, okay, so you wanted a Filet-O-Fish, and then they were out of Filet-O-Fishes, and then you got really grumpy, and you were like, well, no, I'm not eating anything. But I got a large fry for myself, because I'm like, I'm really worried about being fucked up. But you grabbed my large fries and started shoving them in your mouth all angry and in contempt. I'm like, Mike, you got to eat your nuggets. And you grabbed one and threw it. I'm like, Mike, you have to eat your nuggets. So I did what I do to Lucy when she doesn't want to eat. When my daughter doesn't want to eat something, I kind of hide the thing she hates in with the thing she loves. So I kept hiding nuggets within the fry pack, and you would grab a bunch of fries, but there'd be a nugget in the middle, and you'd eat it. And then sometimes you discover that a little nugget was in your mouth. So you'd be like, "Pah, pah, pah." Again, my daughter does this. So then I started dipping the nuggets in barbecue sauce,
I love
and
that.
I was feeding you. And there was a bunch of guys just watching this all go down, and they were like, "What the fuck?" And then I accidentally slipped and dropped a nugget on your jacket. And then it had barbecue sauce all over your jacket, and that got you very upset. And then you grabbed your Sprite, and then we walked you to your room.
Hey, man.
All right, back to the Netflix party.
All right, so night 2, 3, and 4. So
then it was my turn.
Yeah, so the Netflix party Shane was loving, and Webby D was back at the Hyatt having a drink with some actual mutual friends. Josh from Sam Roberts' band.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then another Josh who was a writer for this comedian, but they were all kind of hanging out doing their thing. So I was like, it's our last night. I'd love to go have a drink with like Webby D, but we'd sort of committed to this Netflix party, and bar goes to like 3 or whatever. And so I was kind of letting Shane know, I was like, this is like, I'm at the end of the run here, man, and we have a wedding tomorrow, so I'm going to kind of like, and he was like, this party is the fucking greatest. Look at famous person. Why the fuck would we go back to the fucking... Do you remember all this?
It's true. And by the way, I had an energy drink this night, and my brain was totally different. Like I was in this like very interesting energy mode. I'm like, Nick Kroll's looking at me, wants to get a photo with me. I'm like, we got Neil Brennan looking at me. I'm like, you know why? Because they love guys like me liking them. Because I'm rating the demo, and they know it, and I'm the only type of fan they care about. So I'm trying to...
So now I'm here going, it's my turn to save him. He sounds crazy. What is he going to say to these guys? So I'm just listening.
And I'm like, so we got to stay and see how it plays out. Because and ultimately, I know Mike is more of a chatty guy than a observer guy. So he wants to go to a place where he can chat it up with Webby D and kind of chill out. But I want to party all night. So then I'm saying, no, we're going to create a jealousy trap. We're going to see how this plays out. We're going to see if they're going to ask me for a photo. And then Mike's like, no, I'll go up and ask them for a photo. And then and I'm like, no. And then you walked up and asked them for a photo.
Well, what was hilarious is I'm like, I'm just going to go do, because they were kind of having their own conversation. Like they were kind of whatever, broing down, talking shop. And just as me and Shane are going up, and I'm kind of dragging Shane to get the photo, because he didn't want to, but I knew the minute the phone came out, he'd stick his head in there.
Of course.
2 guys that are also in the demo sneak in right before us, and they're like, excuse me, do we mind if we get a photo? I'm like, damn it. I'm like, they just did what we were going to do. Now we have to follow those guys. It's going to be weird, but whatever. I was like, hey, Nick, Neil, I'm sorry to interrupt. We saw your shows this weekend. It was amazing. Do you mind if me and my friend get a photo? And to Shane's point, like, yeah, like Nick Kroll was like, absolutely. Like he was enjoying people taking photos and stuff like that.
And Neil Brennan loved it too.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then we went back and hung out with Webby D.
Yeah.
And I don't remember 100% of that. But I do know the next day on Instagram, the drummer from Sam Roberts' band was like, thanks to my brother. Well, he was putting a lot of pictures up of him at all these shows. And then he's like, thanks to my brother, pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. And then held up a pass of apparently I gave him my pass.
Yeah,
So-
you insisted on that.
So I'm not sure if that's allowed or what. So I'm like, why are you posting this? Like, fuck, did you find it? Did I give it to you? I wasn't sure. So
Well, he wants to come on the show, and he was saying that he could be the new pop culture aficionado, which at that point you did not like.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you were like, fuck that. And then he had a buddy that was a comedian, this Josh guy, and because you were being like hilariously abrasive, and there was like someone had brought McDonald's to the bar, and then then they brought some bagels over for some friends that were going to show up, but you were putting your hands in the bagels, you're like, give me that bagel, and they were like, that's not your bagel, and you're like, fuck that. And then we were all joking, and then the Josh, the comedian, was like, you guys are like the fighter and the kid, and then you go, which one am I? And he goes, who do you think? And he goes, and then,
No, wasn't there a point where you guys were talking about an actor? And then I got my phone out, and they go, "Oh, are you looking up the actor?" And I go, "No, I'm looking up a Domino's."
that's what it was. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that would have been your second night in a row with the Dommies.
Yeah, it was too late though. I couldn't get it.
That's a bummer. But yeah, so that was kind of the last night. I'm trying to think of anything else happened at that Netflix party that was great.
No, man.
No. It was like, yeah, but everybody was there. Like Jeff Ross came in.
Man.
And it's that weird thing that happens too where it's like we've interviewed Jeff Ross before. And this happened the first night we saw Chris Red. Like Chris Red walked by. I was like, what up, Chris? And we did a 3-face handshake. Remember that at the Midnight Surprise?
Of course. Yeah, you were in like the best mood ever.
Yeah, that was
I'm
the
just
high
like,
five
will
night.
Chris look at me? And I'm like trying to wave at him. And Mike's just like, yo, Chris. And like gives a 3-face handshake to Chris Red. Like they're best friends who've known each other
That's
forever.
cool.
Did he
Yeah.
remember you? Chris Red?
No, he didn't even look at me.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine.
But yeah, and then I think if you went up to him and said, hey, we did that thing last year, he would have for sure.
Possibly.
And then Jeff Ross, when he came into the Netflix party, I'm like, Jeff, what's up? He's like, what's up? And then he just, but I think he says that to everybody. Anyway, long story long, that was our weekend. We woke up, we got on a plane. We almost didn't make our flight because of Montreal traffic.
Oh.
And then we got in for AJ's wedding, which to be continued on
Yeah,
and
we'll
AJ
get-
and Carly, because Carly's just
Probably
as much
the
of a-
funniest wedding of all time.
Fuck. Okay, I want to hear about that,
Yeah.
but let's not. Let's save it for the next episode.
Okay, we
Yeah.
will, because AJ also had beef with us. I don't know if you remember that from the wedding.
Save it.
Oh, yeah.
Save it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck
Okay.
him.
So today on the show, what are we at there, Erica?
You know, this is a doozy. We're at an hour and 12 minutes.
Jeez.
Nice.
And
Max wanted to do rants.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we're getting today, guys.
So this interview you're going to listen to, it's like going to be our first 2-hour pod.
Yeah, I love it.
Um,
You're welcome, listeners.
Our guests today, should we just break it up and do them on another episode, or should we? Let's throw to them. You're the producer.
You know what? It feels like let's just end the episode and right.
Yeah, let's do it. Why
and
not?
then set up a whole other
Yeah.
thing. So we'll do another JFL. Well, it won't be JFL, but we'll basically throw to them the interview. So you have to wait a couple days for Mike Sweeney and Jesse Gaskell.
Yeah, we're doing that.
Okay.
Sweet.
Deal. Because we'll set that interview up. It ended up being a great conversation.
Okay, awesome.
So this is it. That's the end of the show.
That's it.
All right.
Got my headphones on.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, nailed it.
Mike on Much can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Mike on Much. You can subscribe to the show on any platform that has podcasts, Spotify. Do it.